Hey guys, what's going on? Very excited. What are we on? Like episode 34? Damn, dude. Okay. All right. This is coming together. Things are happening. I'm trying to set everything up here, but it's being a bitch. You know what? I'm going to see if I can pull this off in Facebook. So I might go dark for just a second, all right? Let's see. 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'm still here hanging out with you. I'm going to be talking to Jim Tanner tonight. He and I haven't talked too much, but I'm excited to kind of learn all about him and what he's working on and all that kind of stuff. So let's edit the privacy, make sure that everybody gets to see this. Okay, and then hopefully that means that you guys are going to. Steph, yes, okay. I made it work. So amazing. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man. How are you doing? I hope everything's going well for you. I hope you're cranking out the circles, buddy. uh, um, Brian Manel, good, man. It's not a show without Brian. Good, buddy. Glad to see you. All right, I'm going to just shut this thing down. It's not doing anything right now. We're here. I'm a millennial genius. I don't know about all that, but I'm making it happen somehow. Elfie's here. Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's yeah, man. I guess share this around if you want to. Of course that'll get us out to as many people as possible, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk with my good buddy Jim. We're going to learn all about him and how he makes comics and all that. Yeah, no good TV tonight. Just stuck with Chuck. That should be the name of my next show. Stuck with Chuck. There we go. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna start this all up. Let's make this happen and see what craziness we get into. Must be badminton tonight. Do you guys actually watch the Olympics? I never got into the Olympics. Honestly, it's just way too tame and boring to me. World Cup. The World Cup is my thing. It's way more racier. Uh, I got work to keep me company. Oh, you're very welcome. All right, yeah, let's get this going.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck. Because I care.
What's going on, Jim?
Not much. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How do you like that opening?
At first, I thought we were talking about the John Candy movie, Canadian Bacon, for like half a second. I was
Such
like,
a good movie.
I was like, well, that's just random but cool.
My buddy made that. I happened to do a stream just a day or two before I started the show, and we ended up talking about Canadian bacon because I'm Canadian and it comes up. So he threw that on there and just decided to make it go really chaotic and funny and weird because that's, I guess, what made him think of me.
I liked it.
Thank you. Dude, really excited to have you on here. You just got out of Kickstarter recently. Oh, Steph comes on. He says, "Hi, Jim. Lower your expectations. This is a Chuck show." Thank you. I appreciate you. I hadn't thought to tell him that yet, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of shit talking tonight. So just, Jim, be comfortable, have fun. It'll mostly be aimed at me, so you're all good. They have a target. So cool, Jim. You just got off Kickstarter recently for Dig Two Graves.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some other stuff going on. So why don't you start off by telling us your origin as a comic fan, and then your origin as a comic creator, and we'll get started there and go from there.
I started collecting comics or getting into comics when I was about 8 or 9, give or take. Just you go to the store, you get your first issue, from your parents, buy it, and then I think my parents liked it because I was actually reading something. So they encouraged comics. We had a local comic shop here. It used to be called Gotham City. I don't know how they got away with that, but and then when Image came out in the 90s, that huge boom, I just was all in at that point. Everything was comics. So, and I actually started writing comics around the same time. So I think I used to mention on my Kickstarter bio, I might have removed it, that I actually started writing, like just, my own fan made comics. Like I wrote X-Men and like Wolverine, and I try to draw them and they'd be like 3 pages. And I thought they were epic, and, they were 3 pages. So,
but epic can happen in 3 pages.
Well, I mean, I killed Wolverine off in my very first comic, so I thought that was pretty dramatic. I beat
Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah, I beat Marvel by 20 years?
20 some odd, yeah.
But he came back in the last panel, so, I didn't even wait a whole issue, so.
Yeah, and you didn't give him any, fire claws or nothing when he came back?
No, just the claw coming out from the grave. I thought that was such a cool shot, so that was... I couldn't draw faces well, but I could draw hands, and that iconic fisted gloves with the claws coming out, I could do that, so that's kind of where that was coming from.
I like that. That's cool. Bruno Maraca, nice to see you, man. He says 3 epic pages is better than no epic pages. Yes, sir. I agree completely. David Galliano said, I'll shit on anybody. Isn't that basically the title of your OnlyFans? Isn't that? Yeah, this is the kind of show you're in for the next hour there, bud. So strap in or strap on if you're David. Mike, the Mike. What's going on, buddy? Glad to see you here. Hey, if anyone's doing any Kickstarters or whatnot, feel free to drop your links at all times. We're always glad to talk about other people's stuff. We might not actually talk about it too much, but of course, it'll be in the links for you to share. No, that's everyone shit on me. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I knew that I was close. What's with all the poop talk? Because you're on Chuck's Shop Talk, and sometimes that's where we end up. Cool. Okay, so we hear the origin about that, and then what? So, and you talked about making the Wolverine comics. What about then making your own comics and you publishing your own stuff?
Yeah. So for the longest time, my goal was to be a comic book artist, but that kind of fizzled out as I got into my teenage years. I knew my art was kind of peaking at a point. And I was like, eh. And then I really got into just script writing. So I was doing manuscripts, scripts for movies, things like that. And then around the mid 2000s, I realized I wanted to see some of the stuff I was writing actually happen. And the best way to do that was a visual medium. And then, I just remembered how much I enjoyed comics and the kind of stories you could tell in comics. And that's kind of what brought me back to that. And I started writing my own comics at that point. It was about 2004, 2005.
When did you first start getting published or publishing?
The first book that I had a few the first scripts. I kind of shopped around to some artists, and then obviously, if you look back on them now, they're probably not the greatest. But the first book I actually, finished, got and then self-published was Rebel Yell, which was kind of it was kind of like a shit take on like monster hunting, Scooby-Doo kind of stuff. So it was like Monster of the Week kind of thing. Okay. It was fun. It was meant to be just kind of a dark humor. I enjoyed it. We did a few issues of that. Some of the problems with the art just kind of peaked after the 3rd issue. So we put that series on hold for a bit. And actually, we're going to bring that one back. We're actually revamping it with a new title and a new series and a new artist and all that good stuff. So, and we kind of took the original premise and expanded it to something a little bit more.
So basically completely like doing it over again, getting a redo?
Yeah, so we took some of the concepts from it, some of the stuff I liked, the dark humor. The best way I describe it is kind of say like Evil Dead meets like Blade Runner meets, just monster movies galore. It's just meant to be just campy, but, still violent and still fun kind of stuff I like. So I write essentially for myself. If anybody else happens to like it, I'm happy about that. So, but I don't go out of my way to write for anybody else because I don't know what everybody else likes.
Well, there you go. That's something at least.
Yeah.
Steph, artist, drama queens. Oh, don't I know it? Don't I know it? Okay, cool. So why don't you take me through your process as far as, Dig Two Graves. Mm-hmm. First off, tell us a little bit about it, and then tell us kind of where you started and then how you sort of move forward, what your process was in making it.
So Dig Two Graves, one of the things I like is just revenge stories. I really like revenge, especially like the 70s, 80s revenge movies like Mad Max, or if you want to be more, lesser known, like Miss 45 or Rolling Thunder, things like that. And I kind of wanted to take those movies that I liked and make a modern version of that, put a twist on it. So my process usually is I usually have an ending, and then I have bits and pieces throughout. And then everything else I'll just write until I get to that point. So I do lots of outlines, lots of re-edits. So for Dig Two Graves, I actually have, like most of my books, with the exception of the upcoming one we're working on, usually have a beginning and an end. I don't usually do just ongoing comics. So Dig Two Graves is actually going to run for 12 issues, and it will just be the final issue at that point. So yeah, I just outline everything and then just hard edit and then work with an editor once I get to the point that I think it's good. And then I get it back that it's not, and then work it again.
Right. Good. What how many issues do you have of Dig Two Graves so far?
So this was the one that just finished on Kickstarter was issue 2, and then issue 3 is already in early production. Right now the script is with the editor, and then once he's finished up, we're going to get that back to the artist, and he can start. And he turns out pages pretty quick, so it should have a short turnaround for number 3.
True story. As soon as somebody talks about having an editor, I get so fucking hard. It's great.
Is that something you don't like see a lot of, or just something you enjoy, or do you edit?
I am an editor. Like that's what I'm known most for.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a big deal to me. And I was on an interview yesterday, and they asked me, do you edit your own work? And I was like, no, fuck no. Like, how can you take it seriously? Tell people to go hire someone and then go, oh, but I don't need one. I was like, no, that's bullshit. I feel like everyone needs that second set of eyes, and so why would I take that away from myself?
Yeah, for me, the hardest thing to get is actual criticism or critiques. You have somebody ask them to read the scripts, and you always get back, "Oh, it's good, it's great." And I'm like, "No, it's not," and nobody will actually say what like I didn't like, what should be changed. And so an editor, you got to pay them, but they'll actually give you the truth, which is more appreciated than anything.
Yeah, I find it also when you put down the money for an editor, especially like for me as an editor, it tells me you're serious.
Yeah.
Like you threw the money in, you said, hey man, boom, I need you to take care of this. Great, cool. I'm going to come in. I'm not, I like to think I have good bedside manner. So I'm not interested in trashing it and telling you, fuck, this sucks. But basically my whole mantra is, let's make this the best version of itself. Like I had someone making they were just making like a fun superhero book. And they're like, man, it's no Watchmen. And I'm like, why the fuck are you trying to make Watchmen? That's been done, man. That's not what this is. You're not making Watchmen. We're making this story. This is going to be different. And yeah, we don't need to fucking like, if that is going to be your bar every time you make anything, like maybe give up, man. Because, it's not that you can't attain that, but not on your first book and not early in your career. You just got to keep making until you get to the point where you're making stuff that you're really excited about.
Yeah, and I'm sure Alan Moore even thinks that too about his own work, where he's just like, oh, it's no good.
No doubt, man.
Yeah.
See, yeah, Fish is with me. Everyone needs an outside editor. If it does suck, I want to know. Yeah, Josh Main in the house. What's going on? Fish Lee is here. Oh, dude. Guys, we're getting tons of people. I'm loving it, man. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, as a writer, too, a good thing about an editor is, you fall in love too much with everything you've written, and it's hard to, let things go that are really not necessary, or they just kind of slow the pacing down. And a good editor will actually come in and say, no, this part should go. It sounds great, but it's not helping the rest of the story.
Yeah. Who do you use, if you don't mind my asking?
So a friend of mine, her husband, he's an editor, and it just kind of worked out that way. And so he's also a big fan of comic books too, and just kismet I get on that case. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's great, man. Good. Yeah, whatever you can do to get someone to look at it. So, do you find that they're more editing the story and not so much like the comic book aspect of it?
So yeah, he'll actually come in and do a pretty hard edit on the story, and then once it's all done, he comes in and does an actual nice hard edit of spelling and grammar for me, which is my weakest spot too. So he does actual, edits of the story and the other one. So because I know some people kind of focus on one or the other. So
yeah. I mean, for myself, I try to do all of it, even like the pacing and all that kind of stuff. But that's just because I feel like there's so many things when we're working on a book that people need help with, and so to have to find an editor for all those things is just difficult.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna just work really hard to be able to help in all as many of those departments as possible.
Yeah, and since it's all me, everything's out of pocket, so I gotta save money where I can.
Yeah.
So,
I totally feel you, man.
Yeah.
Mike's asking, is Dig Two Graves a crime book?
No, so it's a revenge story. There is an element of mystery in it, but it's not. I wouldn't categorize it as a mystery or a crime. I like to say it's like an action noir. It is a slow burn story. It's very dark. It's not just like somebody dies, time for revenge type thing. It deals with a lot of issues. Deals with PTSD. Deals with depression and other forms of mental illness. So, like I said, it took the setups of those classic 70s, 80s movies that I liked and actually turned it into more of a drawn out, legitimate story where you actually get to know the characters, not so much the whole movie is just plotted out in action sequences.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool, dude. That sounds really neat. And I got to tell you, I love that name.
Yeah. It's funny because I had the first edit of the book came out a few years back. So this ties into Rebel Yell. I was using the same artist at the time. We actually kickstarted that one as well, and it did well. And I took it around to Comic-Cons, and unfortunately, the artist took forever to finish on that one. So that's why we had to switch gears. And I actually had to have the new artist redo the first book so everything would look the same. And then for anybody who bought the first book, we told them, hey, if you back the second book, we'll send you out the first book copy again, the new one. But yeah, so at Comic-Cons, people always said they liked the title. And then one kid came up to me one day, he goes, hey, isn't there a movie called that? And I said, no, I looked. He goes, no, it's on Netflix. I said, Netflix? And I looked, and sure enough, like a year or two after I came out with the first book, Netflix had already come. It's not related in any way. It just shares a title. But aside from that, I'm not too terribly worried about it. But yeah, that also why there was a delay. We had to restart everything.
Well, and I've never heard of it, so it's not like you're really competing that hard with them. You know what I mean?
Yes, I don't think it's a case of like Stranger Things, where I'm like, oh man, now I'm screwed. But yeah, and then I would have been like, well, I got to think of that one again.
I love this, Josh Main. This is why I only make 2-sentence stories. Least amount of editing needed. Yeah, if I were to edit your 2-sentence story, I would probably tell you needs more sentences. Cool. So, how do you go about finding the right artist for your books, especially a book like Dig Two Graves?
So for me, I mostly just like, I search Facebook and I look at, DeviantArt and Instagram, like everybody else. And when I find an artist I like, I'll reach out to them. And, if their rates fall into where I can afford and, their timetables and all that stuff align. So, I mean, if anybody, I know the Kickstarter is over now, but we had like 7 or 8 different variant covers and a whole bunch still we didn't get around to using. Because I like to reach out to artists and be like, hey, you want to do a cover? And, I give them the idea of the book. I give them the character and say, do what you think, would look good. I like to let the artist decide, give me their style. So
are we allowed to talk about Indiegogo?
Yeah. So, like I was telling you before we started, so I had a lot of people reaching back out to me asking, how they can get a copy at this point now that Kickstarter is over. So we decided that we're going to go ahead and do an Indiegogo for the first 2 books. Just instead of doing all the different covers and stuff like we did for Kickstarter, I'm leaving that for everybody who did Kickstarter. And then Indiegogo is just going to be the trade paperback, the graphic novel, both 2 books rolled into one. It'll be about 90 plus pages, I think, give or take.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Steph Wilson says that it needs a sexy pinup cover.
We had a few sexy pinup covers.
That's what he does, man. That's his shit. He did that for us too. Yeah.
So the book's not necessarily sexual, or the character's not necessarily sexualized, but I know, it's Kickstarter. People like different stuff. So, we had covers ranging from, just action stuff to sexy pinup to like an anime, not anime, but in that vein. We try to have something for everybody, but I try to be always up front. Like the covers are just there for fun, but they don't necessarily represent what's in the book, with the exception of obviously the main covers. So
yeah. So those extra covers that you're talking about, do you think we'll see those in the Indiegogo?
Since I'm doing the graphic novel, I don't want to print more than one. I'm still debating. I might do like a mini poster set for people who just really wanted a copy of it. There was a couple that were Kickstarter exclusive for my artist Aaron Bartling. He does stuff for like Ronin and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stuff like that.
Cool.
And he's got a pretty fun fan base who are really excited about that one. So we made that one Kickstarter exclusive, and I am going to do something with him to get him a few more covers for people who missed out. Because he's the artist, I'm not going to tell him no. But otherwise, I some of those I'm going to keep off because obviously I want to honor what we did for Kickstarter.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I'm getting a little jealous as I see the comments come up because you're getting all the beard love. You're getting all the beard love. Look, hey guys, love the beard. I got to assume that's for you because these people have been on my show and they have not talked about my beard. So you're getting all the love, homie.
That's funny because I thought it was looking pretty patchy here a second ago. I was like, oh man, I need a shave.
Well, maybe they're not seeing it. I'm just thinking I got to do that too myself. It's getting a little thick. Dave Galliano thinks you should call it Stranger Graves. That might help you out.
Yeah, like just anything that sounds close enough, but not enough to get sued.
Yeah, right. And he gave me some love. Thank you, Dave. You're awesome, dude. I don't love to necessarily show that stuff off, but I really appreciate it. I appreciate it, so I wanted you to know I did. Luis Torres wants to know what did we miss, dude. We're just talking about Jim and his amazing books. Luis is well known for taking comic creators that he enjoys and whatnot and turning them into females and face swapping them with people. And so today I got the face swap version of myself and she was hot. I might use her for something. She was very attractive. I was surprised. Beardless. Absolutely beautiful skin. So yeah.
I think it'd take more than a face swap for that to be true with myself there.
That's what I thought, but no, she was good looking.
So it's for the fellows who like the ladies big and thick.
Right? Oh, she says mine's too white. Yeah, I know. I'm thinking if I cut off the sides, then you'll mostly just see dark, but I don't know if I'm ready to do the just for men. I don't know, man. We'll see. My beard is shit. Thank you, dude. You're a keeper. I'm more beard adjacent. Yeah, fair enough. Wendy Steen Shaner, so good to see you. I am a pretty lady, thank you. Chuck would totally do this. You guys are nuts. Yeah, okay, cool. So we've gone over Dig Two Graves. Be great. Thank you. Be gray and proud. Thank you, homie. I'm glad someone's in my fucking corner. Jeez. So we've talked about Dig Two Graves. We've talked about all that kind of stuff. Do you usually outline your stuff? I know you said that you have a beginning and an end. Do you usually do an outline, or do you more just try to figure out those main 2 points and then go?
Yeah, since my stories, like I said, they have a beginning and an end. It's easier to outline that way as opposed to if I'm just doing an ongoing story. Like the next book I'm working on is called The Hell Rider. It's actually going to be hopefully an ongoing series. So we're just, when I write it, I just outline the story segments for playing out for 3-4 books type of thing. But with Dig Two Graves, since I knew it was going to end, that's how I knew we had 12 books, because essentially I went ahead and outlined every book. So I actually got to a point around book 3 or 4 where I realized I could, just go right into the more action-oriented stuff and kind of ramp it up. But then I kind of felt like that didn't feel true to the story or the characters. But if I went the other way, it was going to be a lot more slower process, a lot more story. And I had to decide what I think people would want to see. And then ultimately I decided that the story was, richer for me going the other way. And again, so that's how we got to that issue. So everything's kind of written out loosely, with the exception of the first 5 issues, for the most part, are fairly done. Like I said, they just need to go through the edits with the editor and then back to me at that point.
Steph said, what's your backup title for Hell Rider, just in case? What if it's already a Netflix movie?
So that book has gone through a ton of names, and Hell Rider was something that's actually in the book that, from my understanding, that one I have a couple co-creators with, that they actually went ahead and took care of the copying or the copyright or whatever it is for that one. Because we looked everywhere and we couldn't find anything for that. And I was like, holy crap, let's just do it now. I originally wanted to call it Demon's Waltz, which was actually a song from way back in my day when I was in a band. and nobody liked that
Oh.
title but me. So I got nixed. So ended up with that one.
It's tough when you decide I'm gonna listen to other people, because we fall in love with certain ideas and stuff. And like there's this one cover that we did, and I had this one little addition to it, and everyone's like, no, don't do that. And I still look at it and I go, I still think my addition would have been better.
I mean, that's the good side or the downside, I guess, to being pretty much exclusively just me. I get all the choices I'd want, but then sometimes it's like, ooh, somebody probably could have steered me the better direction there.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if I'm right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I still look at it and I go, I think my idea would have worked.
I mean, like I always say, I write for me. I write something that I enjoy. I mean, obviously, I try to clean it up so it's enjoyable to a mass public. But in the end, if I enjoy it, that's what I'm happy with. So, and I can only hope that other people enjoy it based on that. So,
Yeah, no, totally, man. What else do we have? So Alex loves the ongoing stuff. I tend to like that too, and I'm sure you agree with me here. Although, by all means, disagree if you want. But it's harder to do ongoing stuff because we can't promise that it'll get out that often, and so because of that, an ongoing story could just end up ending with no resolution and just pissing off fans, and then you can't reuse it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, since it's just us, we're financing our own stuff. It gets pretty expensive. Plus the stuff I write, like with a book like Dig Two Graves, there's really, I mean, I guess you could always just keep writing and writing and writing, but then you end up with like The Punisher or something like that. And for me, I guess I'm just I love superhero books, but I started to get tired of there's never a conclusion to anything. Like there's obviously a story arc, but nothing ever is, nobody ever dies. No, there's never any high stakes, I always thought.
Yeah.
So I guess most of my stories started to veer away from superheroes. So actually, the only superhero book I wrote with recently in the last 10 years or so, I delved really deep into it. I wrote out like the first 7 books. I was so excited about it. And then I saw The Boys and I was like, oh, Garth Ennis beat me to it. Half the stuff I wrote was almost identical to what he wrote. So I was like, well, that was weeks of writing wasted. So that one ended up in the drawer. I think that was the last superhero book that in a more traditional sense that I wrote. So.
Yeah. Brian Manell, super fan and amazing dude, says, "Hey Jim, what about revenge stories? What is it about revenge stories that makes some of them some of your favorite stories?"
I think I've always just kind of liked the emotional, the sad hero, the hero who's lost everything, who's got nothing left. I don't know why I've always been drawn to those stories. I think I probably saw Mad Max and Road Warrior when I was too young, and then those kind of movies just clicked for me. That ultimate, hero or anti-hero at that point. And like I said, there's a good amount of ones that are not well known that are great, and then there's a lot that are, that especially the late 70s, that used more violence towards women as the catalyst. I don't care for those as much, but I don't know. Like I said, I guess I just enjoyed that. I mean, that aspect of them. But yeah, they can also get a little repetitive after a while, so you have to kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Mel Gibson's Payback?
Yes.
I liked that one. It had that noir feel to it, and there was something about the character. I don't know the movie that well, but I remember, like he was supposed to. There was something that was supposed to happen to him, and he basically got like, knocked out or put into some kind of coma or something, and then shows up and he's owed like $70,000.
Yeah.
And so he wants his $70,000, and eventually people are like, whatever, you're killing all these guys. We'll give you, $500,000. He's like, no, I just want the $70,000. And there was something about this guy who was just like, all I want is what I'm supposed to get. And there was just, I don't know, man. It was a really fun movie. I liked it. So, and the dark feeling of it. Do you have any favorite revenge tales that you look back on and love?
Well, Payback 2, there's actually a remake. The original movie is actually pretty good, and all of a sudden, Lee Marvin, if you know who that is.
I do.
Yeah. Some of the ones that I really, really enjoy, like I said, there's a lesser known one called Rolling Thunder. It's William Devane. He's one of those guys, if you see his face, you might recognize him, and a really young Tommy Lee Jones. I think it's like his first or second movie about the Vietnam vets coming home, part of that non-exploitation kind of period. It's the same guy who wrote Taxi Driver. And it's actually one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movies. So I think he actually had a production company called Rolling Thunder Productions because he loved that movie so much. So that's one of mine. Because I like that feel. Like the movie itself, it's got a very violent intro, and then 90% of the movie after that is just very long, drawn out story arc of this, vet who's home and had all this happen and how he's dealing with it. And then of course you got like the great shootout at the end. And then it's like that. Like I said, this 45 is kind of a lesser known B movie that's got some moments. Road Warrior, Mad Max more so obviously than Road Warrior, but those are some good ones.
Brian Manell loves Old Boy, not the American remake.
Yeah, well, that was kind of odd when they decided to remake that. I didn't hate the U.S. one as much as everybody else did, but I wouldn't probably ever watch it again. But yeah, the original Old Boys, I don't know why anybody would want to remake that. It was perfect as it was.
I would say Kill Bill is another really good revenge movie, actually.
And I think I use that sometimes when people, because as much as I love to write, I'm not great at descriptions, and I'm the worst elevator salesman when it comes to my own books. So I'm sitting at Comic-Con, people are like, what's your book about? I'm like, well, so the best thing I can usually describe is like, it's kind of Kill Bill, but not as Quentin Tarantino. I love Quentin Tarantino, but it's definitely not that flair, if that makes any sense, that kind of style that makes it his. But if you like something like Kill Bill, it would be in that kind of vein, that just that story of revenge. And again, it's a female lead, but when I first started writing, I think the original script I started writing in 2008 was a little more original at the time to have a female lead than it is now. But
yeah, it's funny. Somebody was asking me about a new property that I'm working on, and they were like, and I don't really have the pitch nailed down because I'm still trying to nail down the story, but I know the general idea of it. And they were like, so give me a pitch for it. And I was like, and so I had to think of two properties that made sense to mash together. And I was like, it's The Road meets Adventure Time. And they were like, what?
Oh, that is super dark, but yet sugary.
But yeah, exactly. They're like, what does that look like? I'm like, well, I guess we're all going to find out together because I'm not sure yet. But that's the closest I can take you to.
That's like two opposites right there.
I know, right? And yet somehow I think though that sometimes that's where some of the best stories can come from. Is just these really polar opposite. Like, how the hell do they fit together? I love the challenge of grabbing weird things. I would love to do something where you sit down and like maybe. So I was at Comic-Con recently. I was at the Houston Comic Palooza, and they were doing the art auction. And I was like, what is the writer equivalent of this? And I think it would be really fun for someone to sit down and go, okay, cool, writers, you've got, say 20 minutes or whatever, or 15, whatever. Here is 2 movies. Make us a pitch that would come off this meets that. And I just think that would be an awful lot of fun. I don't know what you would do with that. Like, what, like, how do you turn that into a competition or whatever? But I just think that would be a fun exercise.
Yeah, you get enough writers together. That could be an interesting little brainstorm there too.
Yeah, and I think that could be a fun thing, even to have like as a company to do something like that and just go, hey, you know what, we want to see what you people are like. Let's see your pitches. Let's play with stuff. So, and just start throwing you these weird challenges. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah,
like I said, I know the writers are unfortunately like the least attractive of all the the people we want to get meet. Like, you go to the Comic-Con, you're like, oh, it's so many great artists. I'm a writer. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Or did you draw this? No. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Oh, I feel the torment of that. And yeah, see, Dave Galliano. I know, right? That would be so much fun. Maybe next time we're at a show together, we just do it anyways. Just set it up and make that happen. Editors are beneath writers. Well, luckily I'm both, so fuck you. Steph Wilson and CB Zane. It's Clash of the Titans, God versus God. There you go. That's your story, my man. Lewis, are you still on Kickstarter or did yours come off? Because if you are still on, drop the link, man. So we've talked about Rebel Yell. We've talked about Hell Rider. We've talked about Dig Two Graves. Do you editors are underrated? See, thank you. Fuck Steph, right? Dave, I know I keep you around for a reason, and that's just because you're awesome. Well, that and because where was it? It was up here. Because you write for me, and that just I love you, buddy. Much love. So yeah. Oh, Kickstarter ended Friday. All right, thank you, buddy. If you guys have anything else going on, feel free to throw it in the chat. If you guys have any questions for my man Jim, please hit him up. Let us know what's going on. You know, we want to pick his brain and find out exactly what we can get out of it. Ha! Well, okay. So what are your favorite? We got into revenge stories. What are some of the themes or ideas that you like to play with, or do you even give a shit about themes when you're working?
No, I if I have a story or a kernel of a story or something to that effect, I just kind of stew on it and see where it goes. I have a sci-fi in the works, so like I said, I have a Hell Rider. Like I said, it's a dark horror action. Like I said, it's kind of a weird genre book, I guess. I just write what interests me. So, and I love lots of different types of media, especially when it comes to movies and comics. I don't just have one type of one I just want to shoot for. So, again, now people don't like one or the other. I might focus on more than the other, but
No, I totally feel you there. Lucy, thank you. This is my mother-in-law. She loves my pink headphones. Thank you. I find myself handsome as hell and able to pull it off. So
I thought they were white. I can't see. My colors, my color palette's limited. Everything looks like off color to me, apparently.
Okay. I was going to ask you. Are you colorblind in any way, or?
I'm red-green colorblind, but according to my wife, I'm just colorblind because I can't ever differentiate any of the colors she points out to me. They all look like.
Neat.
She goes, "It's blue." I'm like, "Yeah," and then she goes, "That's turquoise." I'm like, "Yeah, it just looks blue."
She says I'm so modest. Yeah, actually, if you look at my Facebook, it says Chuck Pino, writer, editor, humble as fuck. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Brian Manel says, what do you feel are the most important aspects of a revenge story that you try to implement with your own writing? Good question, bud.
So for me, I try to want to, or at least for this book, I wanted to actually make the villain somebody more sympathetic, not just in a lot of those movies, the villain's always just straight up, typically, just a hardcore killer. You have no reason to ever kind of not want to see them die. And I actually wanted to actually make the villain at least altruistic in some sense of what he's doing. It's a little bit harder. You can't start off a book where somebody's family's getting killed and then be like, well, he's not totally bad. So we're trying to actually build a world around him where people may at least appreciate the villain, not so much just ready for him to die.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I like that. I love my favorite part was when you talked about the emotionality of it. I think that is such a key aspect of, especially, revenge tale. Like, it's all there in the name. It's passion. No one's getting revenge dispassionately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, I'm gonna kill this guy because he did something bad to me, but I don't really care if he dies. Well, then that's not revenge, is it?
Yeah, that was one of the themes we started playing with was, when does it go from revenge to murder? Not that it necessarily isn't to begin with, but when does it cross the line to where you're not just killing for revenge, you're killing for killing? Something the character, will have to deal with. Like I said, so she's dealing with a lot of emotional problems. She's a vet who's dealing with PTSD. I myself didn't serve, but a lot of my friends contributed to that aspect of the story, allowed me to do interviews and get to know the kind of stuff that they've dealt with. And I really wanted to incorporate that into the character and bring a little bit of that into how people deal with that. It's not just the classic 90s postman going postal. It's how most people attributed it, how vets deal with PTSD. So I wanted to touch on that as much as I could without being too heavy-handed, and obviously, respectfully as somebody who's looking from the outside.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the movie, but there was a movie with, I think it was Hugh Jackman. And basically he was a father. His son or daughter had been kidnapped. Like basically 2 kids had been kidnapped, and they couldn't find the kids at all. And so he started to try to figure it out. And of course, he thought it was this one guy, and the level that he was going to in order to get answers from this guy started to take him from victim to perpetrator. You know what I mean? To villain in a way. And so, yeah, I think that's where the vengeance story sometimes has to sort of, like, who we rooting for, and sometimes that becomes the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, I like those types of movies, but yeah, you have to think in today's society that, is it justifiable for somebody to go on that kind of homicidal rage, even if you're, quote, killing, bad guys, but at some point, you're not much better than they are, if not just as, even worse. So, yeah, we did, like I said, I like to think that we touch on that in the story. But, again, within 12 issues, I think we hit a lot of topics. And I'm really excited to get those all out once it's all said and done.
Yeah. Steph Wilson, he's talking about real questions. Yeah, I know it is crazy. Speaking of real questions, Luis Torres came in with one. What people really want to know is, how do you feel about Ben Affleck and Jennifer and J-Lo getting back together again?
It makes me feel like it's the 2000s all over again.
Right. For me, I'm the kind of guy, never look back. So I don't know that I feel about it how I feel about it. I'm not a fan, I guess.
Oh, I mean, my ex isn't Jennifer Lopez. I might feel differently if that was the case, though.
Maybe, but think about it. I mean, he got together. He was with his wife Jennifer Garner. They made Daredevil. Not an amazing movie, but it was passable. But then he was with J-Lo and made Gigli, and there's nothing good that came out of that. So, I think maybe I would see it as, hey, I'm making steps towards eventually maybe finding the perfect person to be in a movie with. And I don't think it was J-Lo. I don't think that was the person.
I can't think of too many movie couples that have done a movie that the movie's actually been really good. Like where they were a couple before the movie was made, not after. So
okay.
It's usually best just to, I think after Gigli, I think no matter what happens, they probably avoid any future movies together.
It's a good idea. Yeah, I'm trying to think of couples that made good movies together. What is that? Smith versus Smith, or whatever the hell it was.
Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But I don't think they were a couple when they made that. I think they were a couple after the fact.
I think so. Basically, that they got together during that. That's where the divorce came from and everything. They actually got together on set.
Yeah, the only movie that comes to mind is because I'm a huge Kurt Russell nerd, is Overboard.
Which is a great movie.
Yeah, but again, that's just, I'm a big fan, so of course I probably rank that movie higher than most people. Anybody who didn't live in that era who probably doesn't look back on it fondly.
Yeah, no, actually, I think that was a good movie. That was a fun movie. So
I heard they made a terrible remake too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think Anna Faris.
Anna Faris. Yeah. Dead on. Yep. And I did not hear anything else about that. So yeah. Revenge can be at its best when there are grave areas. That's where the tension, I feel, is at its best. Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So and yeah, like I said, for this story especially, like I said, we're trying to flesh out every character to where it's just, like I said, we took the template of those classic revenge stories and then set it into like a much larger scenario for everything. So like I said, by book two, it just starts to kick off, and really nothing really starts happening in the whole classic Time for Revenge probably until book 5 or 6. I'd have to look at my notes at that point. So there's a lot of story going on.
Yeah, I'm
sure my letterer loves me.
Yeah, no doubt, right? That's so funny. Lucy came in and she's taking this very seriously. I guess J-Lo doesn't know what she wants. She just likes to be engaged. Actually, I would agree with that. never married, but has to be in a relationship. Mr. and Mrs. Smith is when they got together, and he left Jennifer Aniston. Yeah, that's what I thought. But that's so funny that we're like, let's take this one really seriously. Let's really get into this. You're welcome, Lewis. We're really taking your whole idea seriously. And this is the part of the show where we admire Chuck's expensive light fixture. Is that from Dollar General? I don't know, man. It was there when I got here. You know what? Eventually, actually, so here's the funny thing. When I was at Comic Palooza, my banner broke. So now we're currently making up a new banner because I don't want to reuse the old one. I want to do one because my wife is going to be at shows with me now too, and I want her to be on the banner, and I want to do one for our company. So we're redoing our banner, but I think what I'm going to do is pull it out, retract it, and maybe put it back there and have a backdrop. So maybe I'll put it in front of the light so that you don't bitch anymore. How's that, Steph? Just for you.
I think that'd be my plan if I do like lots of these kind of things, right? Because right now, me and my wife are currently just staying with my sister, so we're just kind of crammed in a room. So that's why everything's kind of a hodgepodge behind me there. So
right, but yeah, no, I did for a while. My banner actually was starting to bend. That was the problem. But yeah, you could always just get your retractable banner, stand it up behind your chair. You're good to go, and it looks like you're in your office.
Yeah, and I'm still working on mine. I had the artist finish it. I just haven't gotten it to the colorist yet, and then from there on to the actual getting printed. Since last year's Comic-Cons, didn't happen. I wasn't in a rush.
Yeah.
So
sorry. I have a client was actually calling me, and I'm like, can we talk afterwards? I'm kind of in the middle of something right now.
Just take the call and just put them on. Like, what do you want?
Right. I should just send him the link and just be like, we're trying to do something here. What do you want?
Have them chat you in the chat so you can just respond with everybody else giving insight.
Right. Steph always goes for the balls. Yeah. He was calling me out even before I had a show. So why stop now? Okay, so we're on this topic of revenge and revenge tales. Do you have favorite revenge comics?
Nothing comes to mind at the top of my head. I probably should add something planned for that. I would probably say I did like the Punisher run. I want to say it's Garth Ennis's run. I don't know if I consider that revenge, but pretty much everything in the Punishers is technically kind of set up based off his revenge of his family's murder, even if that's not necessarily the story arc for that issue.
Yeah.
So.
And he does have kind of that ultimate revenge story, though. Yeah. I think, of course, with him, it's like, okay, well, eventually, enough is enough.
Yeah, that's why there's good like runs of Punisher, and then there's lots of there's only so much you can do with the character. Wasn't there? I think one he became a vampire or something and went to heaven or hell, and I was like, I'm done there for a while.
Right. Oh, hey, I got some love for my beard. Thank you. Thank you so much, homie. And see, yeah, I think the pink headphones help to brighten everything up. It contrasts well with the dark facial hair. See, you're a keeper. Archie comics are the best revenge stories.
I heard Archie got really dark the last few years.
I heard. Well, didn't they try to make? Well, I know that there was an Archie versus Punisher at one point.
What? I was mostly being sarcastic. Yeah. I didn't even know that was true.
That was a thing in the late 90s, I believe. Archie versus Punisher. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I don't even know where to go with that. That's almost as weird as the recent, what is it? Transformers and My Little Pony.
I mean, I guess if you got the properties, but I don't know if those audiences necessarily overlap too terribly much. But
I know, right? But supposedly the story was actually really good. I heard it from somebody who's like, dude, really good, actually.
Some writers like, I'm going all out. I don't care if it is Transformers versus My Little Ponies.
That's the idea, though, right? Is just grab these. That was the challenge we were talking about earlier. Grab these two weird things, put them together, and how can you make it cool? So I guess they did that, or made the attempt at the very least. Brian Manel, thank you, man. You're keeping us on track. You should be the fucking host. How do you get into the writing mood? Do you have a specific place you write from? Do you listen to any music? Is there anything that helps you get into the mood?
Yeah, so I do when I just freeform write, where like I'm just gonna write whatever comes to me before, like the first real, outline or whatever you're doing. I used to actually do that at work. I did most of my writing at my old job, which is funny. And I used to say, "Oh yeah, I'm a paid writer." They don't pay me to write, but I'm getting paid. Well, I'm writing. But then when I actually do go in, like to do, real rewrites, real edits. Yes, I listen to music, usually just to set up my laptop at a computer, or I'm sorry, at a desk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I usually
That's cool.
I have playlists depending on what type of mood I need to be in for, or something that just elicits emotion that would, that fits what I'm writing at the time.
So what are some songs that you would have gone to for Dig Two Graves?
I usually have like a classical selection. Like for Dig Two Graves, I'll have something like it ranges from an artist called White Buffalo to like Alice in Chains, like certain songs, slower, darker songs that I think for like that kind of mood.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
sludgy.
Yeah, songs that just the songs you put on when you're just like you're just feeling down and dark, and you just want to hear somebody else sharing that kind of pain.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. I tend to go straight to metal. Like no matter what I'm listening to, or no matter what I'm working on, usually I find some kind of metal that works with that somehow.
Usually metal's too fast for me. I need something slower, but I'll use metal like if I just need something that's amped up and I need like that energy, that kind of
right.
mood.
I think I like to think that the metal, even if it's not inspiring me, it's inspiring my fingers to keep moving.
I don't know. I think our metal, I think the heaviest I get is like Danzig. So I don't know if I listen to too much heavy metal. So
okay, well that's fine. I don't like to call people out on how heavy they listen to, but I think that's great. Danzig's good.
Yeah,
classic.
I mean, he's a short little angry guy, but I like his stuff.
And weird too. He gets into some really. He loves like UFOs and all that, and all sorts of kaiju and all sorts of neat stuff. So yeah, he plays with some weird stuff.
I will say he's a weird, like just based on the few things I know about him, and I think he directed a movie. He's got another one coming out, and I heard the first one he directed was just awful.
Yeah,
so
I've heard that too.
I know he's got a line of comics too, but I've never actually read them. I think they're more demonic type of books. So I just haven't had a chance to maybe necessarily want to read those. So
supposedly his symbol is actually stolen from an old Marvel logo.
Yeah, I saw the story on that too. Like you can't even deny it was straight up stolen. Like they did like the image over the image, and I'm like, oh, that he just swiped that. How he didn't get sued at this point? I guess Marvel just let it slip through the cracks.
I bet you that for them, they're like, honestly, the story just has people looking at our books. So why try to go for him? Maybe we can get him to do something for us or whatever at some point. So why start the fight?
Well, this is probably what, late 80s, early 90s Marvel, when they didn't have the money up until that big boom. And then at that point, nobody cared. I'm sure Disney's going to retroactively sue them at some point.
Probably. I can see that. Dave Galliano said versus Predator 2. Wait, is that Punisher versus Predator or Archie versus Predator?
I think I did hear. I think that is Archie versus Predator.
Wow, I think it was. Yeah, that would be messed up, man. I would have a read of that. That sounds hilarious.
Well, it seems like Predator's going against everything else.
Right. Hey, don't knock Little Pony, because supposedly there's one that's worth $8,000. Well, I mean, it's not for me, but I'll gladly sell my pink sparkle tush if she'll get me $8,000.
Yeah, was it the 80s My Little Pony or the new ones that are the popular ones now? I don't know if they were doing like an 80s versus Transformers 80s or something like that.
I think it was the new ones.
Oh.
Yeah. Luis Torres, I like the new love ballad from Winterbush Bloodbath. Yes. Fish Lee listens to They Might Be Giants and Weird Al. That'll do something for you. Old school hip hop? I never got into old school hip hop. No. Funny enough. What kind of music do you feel your main character listens to? Oh, I like that question.
I never really thought about it. I just assumed they try to listen to what I listened to while I was writing it, if that helps. One of the bands I like, they got some notoriety on Rick and Morty the last few years, which is cool. Blonde Redhead. That's a good band. They have some little art, a little too artsy at times, but there's other stuff that, I really dig. Yeah. Or an old British pop band, JJ72, stuff like that.
Yeah. And actually, I feel like I should mention this because of what happened today. But my main character, Belial, he wears a shirt that says, "If you're 555, then I'm 666," which is a Slipknot lyric, and he's the devil, so it's kind of funny. But I felt like I should mention that today because their drummer Joey Jordison passed away today. So
Yeah, I saw
my
that on Facebook.
condolences. Yeah, my condolences to his family and to all the fans out there. As soon as I found out, I had to pick up some old Slipknot and listen to it because I love that. That's one of my favorite bands. But also, just he was a young guy. He's 46, not that much older than myself. So
Yeah. So most of the bands I liked or love are either not existed anymore or they've already passed. I guess that makes it easier. I don't have to worry about most of them dying. They're already passed. So
yeah.
I think David Bowie, when he passed, was like one of the newer ones that actually was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's sad. I really like David Bowie. And that was still 6 years ago now.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Dave Galliano, I'd buy your Sparkle Tush. Well, you remember, everything's for sale, my friend. Everything. I'd never heard of Blonde Redhead, but apparently you're not the only fan.
Yeah, like I said, they got more attention because one of their tracks got used on Rick and Morty, and they use it I think once a season. But
that's right. That's the one where they're all sucked out into space.
Yeah, I think the first time was the end where there was all those Mortys and there was an evil Rick and one of the evil Mortys or something to that effect. That was the first time I remember hearing it. I was like, oh, so. I also collect I'm big into old media for some reason, so I have vinyl, so I have them on vinyl, so I still listen to that. So I love to collect that and old movie media that you can't even play anymore,
like Betamax and shit.
No, I collect something called CEDs, which is record. It's a vinyl movie. It came out back in the way early '80s. Around the same time as Laserdisc, but then VHS beat it. So, I don't know. They kind of look cool. They almost look like albums. So, just never.
Are you able? Do you have anything you can play them with, or?
No, I don't have a CD player because even if I did, that'd be probably a pain in my ass to get it to work again. So, they're really sensitive. If you're not supposed to take them out. If you take them out and touch a disc, they're pretty much worthless at that point because you can't play them anymore. So.
Oh man. It's okay, so how do I get my CED player to connect via HDMI cable? I'm sure that'd be very difficult.
I probably have to get one of those old the prongs that you used to use on the old Nintendo where it hooks up to the antenna port or whatever. I have to do one of those hookups.
Totally. How do you create likable characters out of those with terrible pasts or do terrible things?
I mean, I'm hoping that's what I'm doing. But I try to at least give them a story, and a background. Most movies or medium, I notice when there's a villain, when they're just evil, there's nothing known about them except for, hey, I'm evil and I got an evil plan and I do evil things. There's really no motive or there's no reason for anything. They just exist to be, a catalyst for the hero to have something to go conquer. So in this book, I'm trying to give my villains, or I don't even like to use the words villains. I just refer to everything as a character because I don't even think of my main protagonist as a hero per se. I'd like to think I'm giving him enough backstory and enough explanation of to what he's doing as to where you can at least feel his motivations, and you feel that the character, at least he feels what he's doing is for the good of, even if it's just for himself and his family, as opposed to just, I'm here to do evil things and twirl my mustache.
Yeah. No, I totally feel you. Yeah. I mean, I feel, and I totally agree with you there. The characters need to have some kind of substance, no matter how terrible they are. They need to feel human. In order for you, they don't need to even be likable. It's more about respectable. I need to be able to respect the character.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a fine line. I mean, you can only make somebody so evil to the point where nobody's ever going to find any redeem. You have to. There has to be something redeemable in everybody, or else what's the point of, nobody can ever back them or like the character. They're just so evil and over the top, then it's comical at that point. So I'm hoping with this one, the story that we have planned out, and the story that it's going to be, I'm hoping it works out and people enjoy that. and at least appreciate the effort we put into trying to create these characters, the world around them and themselves. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I totally feel you, and good. I'm excited to see that happen. I'll have to pick it up when it hits Indiegogo. JW Sims is here. Hey man, what's going on? Glad that you jumped on and you're catching the show. Even we're ending pretty soon, but I appreciate you popping in, man. Thank you. Steph, he's not wrong. Got to go top shelf guest, Chuck. Should look into upgrading the host. I've tried, but she has a full-time job. So until Wendy is able to get some more time off, I'm going to have to keep hosting this terrible trash show. Cool. Yeah. So starting to wind it down. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we end up heading out?
No, like I said, I'm grateful that everybody's giving me a chance to come on and talk on these various shows. Thanks to all the supporters from the Kickstarter. We reached our funding and over. I'm hoping that I actually just got a big box of some of the what do you call them, like the rewards that are going to go with all the stuff. So I was pretty excited about that. I need to actually send out an update. I'm terrible at those, so I need to. If anybody's listening, I'll have an update out soon. Just keep an eye out on. I'm going to update some stuff soon on about the Indiegogo for the graphic novel or the trade paperback. Yeah, I think it's graphic novel in this case. And then we should have some news on Hellrider coming soon. The artist is just getting to work on that one. And the first 4 issues that I already planned, that's the first big story arc. And then, like I said, depending on how well that goes, we're going to try to make that one an ongoing as long as we can.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. And see, this is why I like to tell people that we're winding down, because then someone like Brian, who might still have some more questions, throws them out there. So thank you, Brian. We do have another one. Is there such a thing as an irredeemable character? If so, how would you deal with that kind of character? Or can you redeem any character no matter their situation?
I was watching a bad movie, and now I'm drawing a blank on it. But the character that was the villain just starts off like he was killing kids and killing... like they wanted to establish that he was over the top and he was such a villain, and I would almost categorize him as irredeemable because he had no actual qualities other than he was just willing to kill from the get-go, and he was so out there and so so bloodthirsty that it made the character kind of unfun. So I don't know if there's something that's irredeemable, but I mean, if you don't want to put any effort into writing the villains of your story, you're just going to end up with bland, just basically, like I said, just something for the hero to go conquer, which is fine. But some of the best characters are the villains, in most of them, most movies, comics, or literature. So a good villain, is something that people remember more so almost than the hero a lot of times.
Yeah. So have you watched The Boys yet?
I have. Like I said, so I originally read the comics when those first came out, and that's when I had the first story, and I'm like, well, and so I started actually thinking about revamping it. And then when the show came out, the changes they had kind of made to the show were some of the changes I had made to my story. I just hadn't invested all that time into rewriting it, and I was like, nope, don't even think about it. But yeah, I have seen that, and like I said, even again with like Homelander, at least they're giving him some motivations. He obviously where he was raised, the people around him. So obviously you're not necessarily want to root for him because he's not a nice person, but at least you can understand maybe in a way why he is the way he is, even if you don't like it or agree with it.
Yeah, I don't think that he is redeemable. Like, I don't think he can be redeemed, but at least he can be understood. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah. And like I said, if you at least can know the motivation behind it, that makes the world a difference. If he was just doing it to do it for no reason, it would just, where's the fun in that?
Yeah. So yeah, I would say, Brian, there is such a thing as an irredeemable character, and it's okay for them to be irredeemable as long as we understand their motivations and why they're there. It all, like you said earlier, the mustache twirling, evil for evil character, it doesn't make sense anymore. We're not, we kind of have learned too much about motivations and whatnot to really back that so much, unless it's a little more kiddie or a little funner. of an idea. So yeah, that would be my take, anyways.
Yeah, unless you wanted to go like straight camp or something, and you're making everything just intentionally. I mean, then in that case, I mean, just as long as it fits the story. But yeah,
Yeah.
But I get, I get what Brian's question was. But yeah, that's at least how I approach it. And like I said,
Like,
hopefully people like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any redemption for the Joker.
I mean, he's also too. He's had how many, like 3 or 4 different origin arcs, and none of them are necessarily true.
Yeah.
So it kind of plays into the mystery of who he is.
Yeah.
So, but people will like a character if they're cool enough too, or if they're fun enough in their own way or unique enough. I guess I can see people who enjoy the character, even if they don't have any of those other backstories to go with them.
Brian Manel says he may actually disagree. Well, then you got to let us know sometime later on why. Maybe put it in the chat afterwards. I'd be interested in your thoughts, man. Thank you for the answers, Jim and Chuck. Hope you guys have a great rest of the year. Thank you so much, buddy. We were glad to have you.
Thank you for all the questions, Brian.
Oh, yeah. Great, dude. And Jim, thank you for coming out tonight, man. I really appreciate you showing up. I hope we helped out a little bit. Can you tell everyone where they can find you and where they can find your stuff, so that now that you've gotten their interest piqued in what you do, they can go pick up your stuff and check you out?
Yeah, so you can check us out on Facebook under SN Comics. We're under Sketchy Nuke on Instagram. We have link trees on everything, or you can just reach out to me, Jim Tanner, on Facebook, and then I can get you in with all the good stuff there too, for all the links and updates and all that stuff.
Amazing. That's terrific. Thank you so much, man. Guys, I really appreciate you showing up despite all the issues with the host and with some particular people in the chat. You know who the fuck you are. Thank you guys so much. As always, my name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Take care. Stay safe, everybody, and pick up some fucking comics.